What's today? TVR, as you will have already seen from the thumbnail and the title, no doubt. Throttle bodies, fuel rail, and then some wiring. No, wiring is boring. Throttle bodies and fuel rail start with. Let's get started. And fuel pump. These do look much better, as I'm sure you'll see, as I'm sure you'll agree. But they're not the prettiest set. There's a lot of it. I mean, it's a really rough casting anyway, but there's a lot of etched in dirt there. But anyway, you can only really see the top edge, so not too many worries there. Now, with throttle bodies, the issue is where this shaft passes through is where it wears inside the aluminium there. And that makes them basically impossible to set up to get a really nice idle, because you get an air leak. If you imagine your disc slot's in there, and that's closed. You've got a bit of an idle circuit here, I think. But if you get air, there's obviously, as the engine's running, there's vacuum inside here. If it's sucking air past here, leaks. It feels okay. There probably is a bit of play, but it's not too bad. Again, we'll run it. They're not hard to take off, and then we'll see how it gets on. There are these little fibre washers. Annoyingly, they're not O-rings. Otherwise, I'd change them. It is interesting though. I wonder if you could get a better seal inside there, like a Teflon or something. Obviously, that would eliminate or would minimise those air leaks. Don't know. Anyway, I'm not feeling too much of that because you saw me looking quite depressed because they were in such a terrible state. So I'm going to get these cleaned up and then we'll fit them to the car. So what I'm doing basically is I've cleaned up the inside there, cleaned up the port there where the fuel injector goes. Then undo the screws, undo one side of that, slide the shafts out, and just clean up the discs and the face inside there. We also want that nice and smooth like that. There's a bit of there's a bit of mottling really. It's not corrosion, and I can't polish it out, but there's nothing you can feel with your nail, so it'll do for a start. And then if we can't get the idle set up, anything like that, and we are getting air leaks there, then we'll think of something else. Maybe some clever person could teach us how to redo that and bush those on the lathe. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? There we are. Not quite perfect. So they're quite a rough body, and as you saw, they were not in great shape. But the important bits are all nice and clean. Throttle pots. There's a rear one, which is white. That's easily available. And then there's a front one, which is blue, which is not. Now, on the parts equivalency sheet that you can find on piston heads, it lists a load of part numbers. And one of those, I think it's a Lucas one, applies to the Triumph Daytona. And that's what I've gone for. Not because they're easy to find, because they're also hard to find, but they're 50 quid rather than 120. So when people find the Ford part, which is a Sierra part, which back when these were fairly new, easy to find. Now, impossible. So when people do find them, they think they've come across a rare stream of minerals when they haven't. It's just some throttle pots for a Ford no one really wants. Is it for a Cosworth? Don't know. Anyway. So the Daytona one online, 50 quid. Oh, we'll see if it works. If not, I'll have to buy an expensive one. And the rear one, the white one, came with it. That was from a Rover. Rover 25 might have used the white one as well. Anyway, be that as it may, that's the throttle bodies done. I've got to dig the injectors out, change the seals, and we've got to clean up the rail. Then we've got to use the lathe. And I think these will come out in order, so I've done the machines. Because that's the fuel rail. That plonks on top of the injectors, and then it has some little standoffs Oh, little 30 mil spacers, when then that bolts through it down to all the bodies. I don't have those, and no one wants to sell them separately, quite rightly. So I have to make some, so I can break the lathe out. If, like me and like everyone else into cars in the UK, you watched Wheeler Dealers, you'll know where this comes from. Wheeler Dealers, obviously. I don't even know why I'm doing this, really. I think we all know it's not a concourse car, but I do have a certain... Sorry. Yeah, it's not a concourse car, no. But I just have a, you know, we all have a certain vision, and we want our cars to look like, don't we? Ding! T-shirt for the first time of this year. Okay, a little bit of Mazda Soul Red. I think we're going to do the same trick as before. Where am I going to put you? And I want to just sand off the top of the fins. Nice! Very nice. It's not blood, by the way, it's Mazda Soul Red. Bit weird painting something and then taking it all off again. But anyway, that's the idea. Yep, imagine that. Then we will, I think it'll look quite nice. I'll just lacquer over that once I've taken that off the top. And the lacquer will help to protect from fuel as well. Okay, see you then. Look at these. They don't look amazing, and I haven't really polished them. Partly because it's a really rough casting. If it bothered me that much, then we could send them for bead blasting, but it doesn't. And you can only see about that much of it. So, we've cleaned up the bits that matter. There's just sort of scarring in there, but they're lovely and smooth, so they shouldn't stick or anything like that. That's our lot. These are our injectors, very similar to Rover V8, but not quite, because... don't know if that's focusing or not. See the little twin nozzles? Other than that, they're Rover V8 injectors from what I can gather. We need to insert those. We put our throttle pots on. White one goes at the back, blue one, or if it comes from anyone else, it's got a black top, goes on the front, sort of as it were. We then have all these little springs, and they go. So if that goes in like that, the spring sits in between that piece and that piece, which looks like a right faff, doesn't it? Joys. As soon as you figure that out. We'll start with injectors, I think. We've got a load of new seals. We've got a bit of that, a bit of greasy stuff, and we have pick. I don't think there's anything really wrong, particularly wrong with these seals, but I have some new ones. Ow! Okay, I think I'm going to survive. That's good, isn't it? Which means I have to finish the car, sadly. Anyway, there we are. That is a resealed injector. Part number E6422. Any of a random Lucas. It takes a little bit of force. There we go. And that is what it will look like. I'll probably get a bit of grease out of there as well, but the petrol will dissolve it anyway. So we're going to put all of those on first. And then I think we're going to try and figure out a way of keeping these attached. I don't know. Anyway, should we try internet magic? 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to the engine bay. Haven't been here for a while. So we've left our silicon on as normal with the Speed 6. There's no gaskets. But what we've done is we've left our silicon on there to set. Now we just have to plonk these little bastards on. Whilst making sure we line, there's some little brackets in between each one, in between each throttle body. We have to make sure they're lined up. So that is that one on. I feel like this engine could be half the weight if it didn't have so many bloody bolts in it. This is the fuel rail. All the injectors push into here. Then we have fuel in that end, fuel out that end. That end of the car, we have a tank. Highly technical, I know, just bear with. That goes into a pump. That pump sends fuel to that end of the rail at whatever pressure. The fuel pressure regulator has a connection onto engine vacuum, manifold vacuum, and then the return line. And what that does is it maintains the fuel pressure at the perfect level, no matter what engine speed, anything like that. And then your perfect pressure is all to do with your injectors. So an injector needs a perfect amount of pressure, not just to work, so when they're basically an electromagnet, so when they have voltage applied to them, it opens, lets fuel out. Now, an engine doesn't run on just fuel being dripped into it. It will run very badly. Fuel is all about atomization, so how it mixes with the air, and it's usually like a little fan. The injectors in that have two little nozzles, and there are two little fans of fuel that will come out, and it's all about the right pressure, airflow and everything, atomizing that fuel into the air mixture that's in your engine, that is then blown up by the spark plugs, and that is how you get a nice, clean, perfect burn, and all the power and all the bums coming out the back. That makes sense, does it? Hopefully. Cool. Let's fit that, shall we? I do kind of see why some of those O-rings were torn, because it's not the easiest thing to do to push it down over 6 O-rings all at once. I think it's safest like that, and we'll make the spaces first, and we can draw it down slowly and apply some pressure to it. I appreciate this is a very basic operation. All I'm making are some little standoffs. I have read some things. If you're really into machining, you're probably going to cringe. I really apologise, because I hate watching people who don't know what they're doing either, but I think I'm kind of right in making something this simple, so if I've got it horrifically wrong, please tell me. Right. Got my bar here that I cut down a little bit from the main stock. I've got 2 quick release tools I'm going to use, and then I've got an 8.2mm drill bit. So that's our bar. We're going to just load that in there. Now, when I started, obviously with that end, I have done one, I admit, I can't really lie, because you can see the bits of brass everywhere, but I didn't want to really embarrass myself and have to cut a million bits of footage, so I made my life easier, leave it at that. The very first thing I did was I just cut that end flush. I've centred that and that, so I put the little cone. I put a little cone in there, and I faced it onto that and the drill bit as well, and it looked pretty straight. And I put a long piece in here, and again, I didn't really have a lot of wobble at the far end. Well, any more than that's probably bent, but. So we're going to put that in longer than 30mm, but only as long as we need it, because we don't want any deflection. Right, that's nice and sharp. I'm going to take this quick release. No, we want that tool post. We'll get that out of the way first. That's loose. We'll just line that up. Then all I want to do is go further than 30mm. It's a soft metal, so I don't think we need lubricant. And we're going to get you out of the way. Now, I've got a parting off. Thank you everyone, by the way, for pointing out the fact that I don't know any terms. I'm really sorry, I'm learning though. I've got a parting off cutting piece in there that's 3mm thick. And I'm going to measure the back of that. So I want about 33mm. So we're just going to get that roughly in place. And then we're going to part it off. And there we go. Now hopefully, if I measure that, I think 08 between friends is right, isn't it? Okay, I know this is the simplest, easiest thing in the world that you could even just use a pillar drill for, but I'm secretly very happy with myself. I know I'm probably not using any of the right bits, but that's what I use just to chamfer the edge off, which is a little carbide index bit, and then the parting off one there is just a cutting edge. So there we are. I'm going to make 2 more of those, because I've already made one, and then we can put it together. Anyone that wants to be helpful, please be helpful. There's so much to read and so much to learn, but I'm learning a bit. I'm learning all these different cutting pieces, some of the right terms, hopefully now. Cool. So I'll finish the last 2, and then I'll see you back at the engine. So I failed miserably with those bolts, they're too long. I've ordered the right ones from Amazon. It's probably where TVR got them. No. Hello? Can I help? Hey. Who's you? What? Who's me? What are you thinking? Jeff Gordon. This horrible thing is up there with the worst bit of design on a Speed 6. This horrible fucking airbox. How does that even fit? I just want to put it in so I can see there's a bracket. That's what we've made. It goes on the back of the starter motor. Then that's for the clutch bleed. But then we have a little stainless bracket that does that. I just want to see how long it needs to be. Oh, there. What a horrible... all this stuff to make it look nice. And then this just disgusting piece of... Anyway, can we get a measurement? How do you even get a fixing on that? How's that possible? How'd you... Huh? You can't even get your hand down there to undo that. Does that back one even ever get fitted? Might need to figure out where that one comes from first, and then we'll worry about the back fixing. Okay, right, we'll do that. Got a little plate on down there. Excuse obviously the weird shape. We've discussed that slightly. There should be a little bracket that comes up for the airbox, but no idea where that's going to go. What else have we done? Not a lot, just bolted the rest of the starter motor on. Nipped up that, and yeah. Now what we're going to do is a little faffy bit. There's some springs. Now we have... So I'm just going to get a shot. So if anyone's rebuilding their car, you can see how it shouldn't look. Looks like the primer didn't take to that very well, which is really annoying, but there we go. Okay, so this is the idea of a little spring that sort of forces the two bits of throttle body together. I mean, to get those in all the way along without losing them. You can imagine how joyous that is. That's the first one in. See there's a little spring in there? That just sort of takes up the slop, I think. There's nothing really retaining them apart from in the lower part of that U-shaped bracket. There is a little nodule thing. Are they actually how you balance them then? I suppose they are, aren't they? No! No! I can see it. Oh. Someone was shining down on me there, weren't they? What's the noise it's making? Wasn't a very good speed 6 noise, is it? Wah, 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 wah. Okay, well, they're done for now, because to actually start to do like an initial balance, I guess you're going to have to do an initial balance, aren't you? Then we really need to learn how that actually works. Well, now I hear you say, build up the rest of the engine. I guess I've got the alternator, power steering, pump and stuff, so that